The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone to Nova 401k Associates webinar, Securely Submit Your Census Data While Protecting Your Employees with Lisa Dielman. Before we get started, I would like to point out the panel on the top right-hand corner of your screen. You will see a drop-down section for questions. This is where you will enter in any questions you may have for Lisa. Keep in mind that the Q&A portion of this webinar will be held at the end, and she will be answering as many questions as time permits. If time runs out and you still have questions, please send them to our email address, webinars@nova401k.com. Right below questions, you will see a handouts dropdown. Here you will be able to download today's material. Thank you for joining us today. I would now like to introduce to you Nova's Assistant Team Leader to the Defined Contribution Administration Team, Lisa Dielman.
Thank you so much, Yvette. Hi, everybody, and thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you especially to all of you on here because I do know that we sent out the correct link to this webinar just this morning, so apologize for the lateness, but thank you so much for being on the webinar and taking your time out of your day to do this. And it is being recorded, and so a copy of it will be on our YouTube channel, just like the email stated. So, so that will be there as soon as we can get it there so that you can refer back to it if you need to. All right, well, let's get started because this will take almost the entire hour. So I want to get going so that I can answer your Q&As at the end. So our usual disclaimer is that this presentation is general in nature and not intended to be substituted for legal or tax advice. If you do need legal or tax advice, please contact a professional such as attorney or accountant. All right, so as you can see, we have quite a lot of things on our agenda today, and we're going to go through all of them. Some of them we'll go through really quickly. The one that's going to take the most time is the actual year-end data collection project. We're going to go through every task within that project, but we're going to get there first. So let's start. So Nova 401k Associates is really serious about cybersecurity and the personal identification information, the PII, for all of your employees. So we have certain measures in place regarding the cybersecurity, and we talk about them to you so that you know what we're doing and you understand what's going on, and you have an understanding of how you can help your employees as well. So there's a lot of money in 401k plans, and the bad guys have taken notice. Over the last couple of years, they have really tried to do a lot of coordinated attacks on record keepers with phishing attacks in employees' emails, trying to hack into there to get passwords information to where their 401k money is. So once they can get some information from the employee's email, they then contact the record keeper to try and reset passwords. And with those new passwords, they can request loans and distributions from a participant's account. And if all of us involved are not being diligent, that money can get paid out and might not be able to get it back. So every person involved should be very diligent at this. So because with ACHs and wires, usually only trivial amounts have been recovered once the theft is discovered. So it's really important to keep an eye on this. So your plan does have a fidelity bond, right? Most plans do have a fidelity bond if it's a requirement because of the certain plan type. You also might have fiduciary insurance, and your company might have E&O insurance. And this type of theft is not covered by any of those, okay? So we all have to be alert. So here's how we can be. Here's just a listing of the files that should be sent securely, either to Nova, to your payroll provider, to your record keeper that holds the 401k plan assets. And so these are all of the items that should never be sent via email without encryption because they could have really important PII information of the employees that the hackers can then utilize, okay? So Nova's most favorite way to send you information and for you to send us information is through our Plan Sponsor Link web portal. There is, once you've logged into your plansponsorlink.com web portal, every single contact on the plan has their own login. Okay, so it's not shared with other people. And only the person with that login has the password. So we don't even have your password. So that way it's even more secure. And so once you've logged in, there is a secure file exchange tab where you can go in and send data directly to a Nova contact, and we can send data directly to you. So if it's not linked within a certain project that we're asking you about, then you can send us data through that secure file exchange. And that secure file exchange feature is awesome because it also has the added feature of, excuse me, Plan Sponsor Link automatically sending an email to that person. So if you go in and you're going to send me a file, Lisa Horn-Dealman, you're going to find my name. It has a listing of all of Nova's employees. You're going to find my name and send me a file. Plan Sponsor Link, as soon as you hit send, will send me an email to say, hey, a file's been uploaded to my secure file exchange for me to then log in and download it. So you don't even have to email me that you sent me that data because I've already gotten that email. So really cool feature. Help yourself, help us, help your employees, and please utilize this feature as much as you can. Now, for some reason you can't get into Plan Sponsor Link, we also have encryption software email. So if you need to do something via email, we can send you our Zix Select encrypted email. You can create a login, upload the data that way, and send it to Nova that way as well. So we do have that as well that we can use. Another way is anytime a new contact wants to be added to the plan, we have to get authorization from a current contact. So like for instance, yesterday I had someone call me who wanted to know, talk about a specific client of mine and their plan. Well, that person was not listed as an approved contact in our system. So I then contacted the primary administrator on the plan, said, hey, I got a call from this person wanting to talk about your plan. You know, do I have authorization? And she said yes. So then I could add them into our contacts. So we don't just add people without getting authorization of an existing contact. All we need is an email from an existing contact. It's not a specific form. All Nova employees have to have mandatory training every quarter on cybersecurity so that we stay diligent and know what those bad guys are doing and trying to pull. And then we also have to change passwords at least every 90 days. We have a policy here at Nova. If there is a website that does not have two-factor authentication built into it, we are required to change our passwords every 90 days. And that includes getting into our main system. So we try to be very diligent. So what can you do to help is definitely upload any census data or distribution request forms, loan request forms, anything with your employees' PII, name, socials, date of birth, date of hire, address, phone number, email, anything that has that information. Upload it to Plan Sponsor Link using that secure file exchange option. If you send an email and it's an encrypted email, just limit the number of people copied on that email. It should only be sent to the person that absolutely needs that information of PII. And then use complex and long passwords and change them often. That is definitely something that Nova requires, and that should be something that you really do to help keep yourself secure as well. Okay. And I just wanted to mention as well, record keepers like John Hancock. When I say record keeper, I mean the place where your contributions for your retirement plan are being submitted. So you have John Hancock, you have a Census, American Funds, Transamerica, Voya, Lincoln, Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, you know, all these companies. They are what we call the record keeper. They hold the contributions of the retirement plan. They are also being very diligent. Most of those record keepers, their websites now have two-factor authentication. They now have where if a person is trying to change a password, they then will not be able to take a distribution or a loan request for like 5 days. They will send an email to the email address on file, the one that you had put in there, saying, hey, your password has changed or your address has changed, and that will throw that out there so that you can then go in and change that and change your password so that people, or the employees can do that so that people cannot take their money. So record keepers are also trying to be very diligent on that. All right. Census request background. So some of you have already received your census request. Others will receive it the week of January 17th. And we will continue to send reminders. The first reminder will be sent at the end of January, and then, every couple of weeks, and then monthly for a while after that. So the first ones have gone out, but others will be going out over the next couple of weeks. And this is required because a retirement plan has to have required annual testing done on it. Most retirement plans, there are the exceptions, but most retirement plans have to have required annual testing. That is government regulation to make sure it is compliant, that it is not being administered in a way that goes against the government regulations. We also have to check annual deferral limits. So the deferral are the employees' contributions that are being withheld from their paycheck, and it has a limitation. So for 2022, that limit was $22,500. For those under 50, anyone age 50 or older could add an additional catch-up of $6,500. So we want to make sure that no one goes over those limits, okay? We also have to do that for safe harbor plans. So even if you have a safe harbor plan and you're deemed to pass other compliance tests, we still have to check for that deferral test. So that's why we still need your census data. We also require a lot of that census data is what's used to prepare the required annual governmental informational tax form 5500 or 8955 SSA. I call it an informational tax form because there are no taxes paid through them. They are strictly providing information to the government, the Department of Labor and Social Security Administration. So a lot of that data that we get from the census file is utilized to complete those as well. So on your census request, every employee who received any kind of W-2 wages for the year we're requesting, so in this case for 2022 plan year, any employee who received W-2 wages must be reported on the census. Even if they're not yet eligible to participate, even if they are eligible but they decided not to participate, they have to be reported on there because we utilize that information in coverage testing, okay? Part of the compliance test. So if they terminated in the year and they worked one day in 2022, they were hired, they worked one day, and they left the company, they have W-2 wages from that one day, we need them on the census. We do request 3 different types of compensation on that census for each of those employees: plan compensation, gross compensation, W-2 box 1. And I'll go into that a little later. People who are not included on the census is anybody who is a 1099 employee, okay? And I say up here, all employees who receive W-2 wages. If you also have owners of the company that don't get W-2, they get paid via a Schedule C or Partnership K-1, they also need to be on there. We just understand that they might not have compensation to report yet, okay? But they do also need to be listed on the census. But anyone who is a paid 1099 wages, they are not W-2, they are not an owner with Schedule C or Partnership K-1, they do not need to be included on the census because they are not eligible to be a part of the plan. Deadlines. So we have specific deadlines here at NOVA so that we can match the IRS and the Department of Labor deadlines. So the initial request for the census, I think to have it back to us is like January 17th or 18th. We probably will extend it, but basically This deadline is that if we do not have your census, your complete and full census data by January 30th, we do not guarantee that we can get to the testing of your plan in order to test it to see if any ADP or ACP refunds are needed for one of the tests for a non-safe harbor plan. We cannot guarantee that we can get the test done and get the refunds, if needed, processed by the IRS and Department of Labor deadline of March 15th. So the government regulations state that if the test has refunds because it failed, they have to be processed out of those participants' accounts at the record keeper within the retirement plan by March 15th. Okay, so that's why we have that deadline of January 30th. For safe harbor plans, the NOVA deadline is February 24th to guarantee that we can get the testing done by that April 15th deadline. So basically, similar to these refunds, if a participant exceeded the allowable employee deferral contributions for the year, those have to be refunded. And the government says they have to be refunded by April 15th. So if we do not have complete census data for safe harbor plan, by February 24th, we cannot guarantee that we can have the testing done and distributions processed by that April 15th deadline. Okay. And then the IRS and Department of Labor deadline is July 31st for Form 5500 or 8955 SSA. Those are without extension. If we do have to extend because we do not have all of the information needed to complete it timely, we will do that and there will be a charge on that. All right, so in case you have not yet accessed Plan Sponsor Link, here is the link to go to, and this is what it looks like. And the username is always the email address that NOVA has on hand for you. So if your email address changes for whatever reason, please, please, please make sure that you update NOVA. Contact your account manager here at NOVA and get them to update our system so that it matches, okay? If you're a first-time user, to log in, to create your login, please click on that. What's going to happen is Plan Sponsor Link will send you a temporary password to the email address, and then you will use that temporary password to then create a password that only you know, so that you can then have your login. If you at any time forget your password, just click on Forgot Password. Again, Plan Sponsor Link will send you a temporary password via email. Always check your junk or clutter inboxes if it's not in your main inbox, because it does sometimes go there. Let's see, here we go. If at any time you need to change your password while you're in there, simply click on the drop-down arrow next to your name and click on Change Password, okay? This editing guide is for when you're in the actual data collection project. And so you'll see these items, and this is just a little update on what it means. They used to not have such clear icons, and so their icons are a lot better, and they make more sense now. So we don't really need that editing guide much. So here is what you will see in your Plan Sponsor Link, okay, with the new census data collection request. So this is what it's called, year-end data collection, and it has the plan year. And all you would have to do is click on Begin Task to then go through the steps. Once you've clicked on Begin Task, there are 9 steps here, okay? And when each step is completed and you've hit Save, you will get a green check mark, and then you'll do the final approval step, okay? There are 10 steps to complete. When it has not been completed, this is what it looks like up here, okay? It has a little arrow to say that it's not completed because you don't have that green check mark, all right? At the top of each task, you'll also be allowed to enter notes. So if there's any note that needs to be provided to your account manager, please click on that and add a note, and then they can see it once you are complete with all of your items. So now we're going to go through, here's the big part, the year-end data collection. We're going to go through each step. So we're going to go through each of these steps one by one to explain it. Some of them will go really fast like this one. Step 1, company contact. This is pre-populated with what NOVA has in our system. If anything needs to be changed, please make revisions as needed, add things as needed, okay? If everything looks correct, simply hit save and move on to step 2. Step 2 has the employer company data. So we already have some information in here, and some information we might not have because we didn't have it in there from the prior year, or you're brand new to NOVA and we didn't have that information yet from you. So please complete this as much as possible. The NAICS business code. We require that because that code has to be utilized on the informational tax form 5500 of the retirement plan. And what we need basically is, what code does your company use to report your company taxes? That's all we need. What is that business code that y'all use to report your company taxes? Put that in here, and then we can use that same code or a similar code for the informational tax form 5500. Payroll provider, please let us know who that is. If it's in-house, please put what payroll software you're using. Is it QuickBooks, or something else? Payroll frequency, we ask for that because if your plan allows for loan repayments, it helps us to know what the payroll frequency should be on the amortization schedules for those new loans. Okay. Step 3 is principals. Basically, we need information for non-discrimination testing. We need to know who all the owners and officers are of the company. If it's a nonprofit, simply enter nonprofit with 100%. Same with publicly traded company. If there are no owners, just put publicly traded 100%. Okay. But if there are actual individuals who own, we need them listed out, and we need ownership to at least add up to 100%. Why would ownership be more than 100%? It would be in the case of ownership changing hands during the year. Let's say I am an owner of the company and I decided I wanted to retire July 1st of 2022. I would have ownership of 50% for the first half of the year, but then I sold my ownership to someone else. They would have that 50%. And then there'd be that other 50% owner. So it'd be 150%. That is where you would use this notes. You would say, Lisa Dealman sold her shares on this date to such and such person. Okay, so that's why we say at least 100%, because we do need to know who was an owner at all times during the year. If there's an officer but they're not an owner, please still list them and list them as an officer with 0 ownership. If you have a trust or an outside corporation that's an owner, but there are people within that trust or corporation of that entity, we need those people. We have to have that information to determine control group, affiliated service group for the company. Again, if more than one entity sponsors your plan, provide complete ownership of each entity, like the individual ownership. Family relationships. So we need to know, for non-discrimination testing, everything we ask for is utilized in completing the annual required compliance testing on the plan and the annual informational form 5500. We do not ask this information simply because we want to know. It is so that we can do the job that we were hired to do. So every single person who is a child, including adopted children, a spouse, a parent or grandparent of an owner of the plan sponsor company needs to be listed here. So let's say Lisa Dealman, myself, I'm an owner of the company, and my spouse also works at the company. They're an employee of the company. I would need to list my spouse and his relationship to me, okay? So we only want those employees who have related to a direct owner of the company who are also employed. They have to be employees of the company. If they have children, if they have spouses, but they don't actually work for the company, we don't need that information, okay? If it's a nonprofit, publicly traded company, or there literally are no family members that are employees, then just simply leave it blank, hit submit and save, and move on. This is how you can add a family person. So if you go in and there's no one under family relationships, you can click add, and then you can add that information and hit submit and then hit save. That's where that came into play. Other businesses. Again, we're not trying to be up in everyone's business. We just need this information to do our job correctly. And so if any of the direct owners of the company that sponsors the plan, so Nova 401k Associates sponsors a plan, right? If any of those owners own another business, we need to know what that business is and the percentage of ownership, because we have to check again to see if there's a control group issue or affiliated service group issue, because that could change how some of the testing is done. So if any of the owners of the company that sponsors the retirement plan, if any of those owners, their spouses or children, own a separate business, please complete this section, the other businesses section, and list the ownership and percentage by person for those businesses. And again, please ensure it adds up to 100% at least. Step 6 is the contacts that Nova has on the plan. So again, it's pre-populated with what we have in our system. You may add information for a contact, okay? So when you're going in, if you need to add a contact, you can provide that information. You cannot delete a contact. If you want to delete a contact, add a note. So when you're in that step, let's go back. There's that notes right here. So when you're in step 6, if you need to delete it, you can add a note. Please delete such and such from the plan, or you can just contact your account manager directly via email or phone call. Okay, step 7. So employer questionnaire. If you've been with Nova in a prior year and you've done this before, then you will notice that this questionnaire has definitely gotten shorter. We really worked hard this year at trying to shorten up the questionnaires and work on the census flow for you, for our clients. So hopefully you will appreciate that. The questionnaire relates to questions we need answered so that we can finish the compliance testing in Form 5500. Most of these questions are yes or no answers. And if you aren't sure exactly what the question's asking, contact your account manager directly and discuss it with them, and they can kind of point you in the direction of the correct answer for that question. So now we're going to go through them, because I'm going to try and help you out. But if you still have questions, then contact your account manager directly for your exact plan. Questions 1 through 4, we've moved things around as well as shortened questions and edited questions. So now we are asking about employer contributions from the start. So do you want Nova to calculate a discretionary profit sharing contribution? Not a match, but an actual profit sharing. If yes, on number 2, enter the total dollar amount, percentage of pay, or formula that you want for that profit sharing. So, you know, if you have $100,000 that can be allocated, then put that. If you want 3% to everybody, you put that. If you want maximum to the owners, minimum to everyone else, then you can put that. Or you can do similar to last year if Nova did it for you last year. But we need some kind of direction from you on what type of profit sharing allocation you want to see, okay? If you contributed a match throughout the year or want Nova to calculate a match for the year, a discretionary match, not a safe harbor, if you want them to calculate a discretionary match for you, what dollar amount or formula should be used? So let's say that you want to do a match. You don't want to do a profit sharing, you want to do a match. You could do both, it's up to you. And you say, I want to match dollar for dollar up to 4%. So you would put, you know, dollar for dollar up to 4%. Or let's say you have $50,000 that you want to spend as a discretionary match. You could put that there. So, or if you contributed a match throughout the year, say you contributed dollar for dollar up to 6% throughout the year, put that on there. That way we know what you matched so that when we're doing our compliance testing, we can use that formula to make sure no one exceeded what they should have received, okay? And if you are electing to fund in a discretionary profit sharing or match contribution for the year, and there was an employee that became disabled or passed away or retired during the plan year, there is a new column, column H, on the revamped census template file this year, and you would just mark a Y for yes, or if you're doing it within plan sponsor link, then just click on the checkbox, okay? We would need to know if one of those employees had any of these three items. If you are funding a profit sharing or discretionary match for the plan year, okay? Question 5 only applies to those people who are an owner or partner of the company where they report their income on a K1, partnership K1 or Schedule C. So, basically we're saying, do you have any owners or partners who will report their income on a partnership K1 or Schedule C? Mark yes, because then we know we need to wait for that information, all right? And we need a copy of that partnership K1 or Schedule C as soon as it's available. What we do not need is an S corporation K1, all right? I think it's an 1120-S K1. We do not need those. That is not allowable compensation in a retirement plan, so we do not need that. We only need a partnership K1 and an ownership Schedule C. Question 6 is asking, is the company a control group or affiliated service group with another company? So again, when you fill out that other businesses section, if there's common ownership between the companies of more than 80%, then it's a control group. And affiliated service group, 2 or more organizations with service relationships. If you aren't sure if your company is one of those, you can mark no and then put a note. Usually the person that completes the taxes for the company should know that, right? So you can always ask them if you aren't sure about that. Question 7, this helps us with that ownership step where it could be more than 100%. If there was a change in ownership, purchase of a new company, or sale of a company, hopefully NOVA is already aware of these things. But mark yes if any of those happened, or no if none of them happened. And then if we aren't aware of those things and you don't leave a note, which it would be nice if you leave a note, but if you don't, your account manager will know to call you and talk to you about it so that we know if anything needs to change on our end to complete the testing. And number 8, do you have another qualified plan that is not with NOVA? So sometimes NOVA will administer a 401k plan and a different company will administer an ESOP plan. So if that's the case, you would mark yes, and then we would know how to proceed from there with a special testing that has to be done. Number 9, this is a new question this year. Because of the part-time, long-term employee rule that is going to be starting up next year with the Secure Act and Secure Act 2.0, we are asking for this question. We are asking for this information. So basically, if your document was written to exclude part-time employees, seasonal or temporary employees, and you had those types of employees for the year who were paid W-2 comp, please answer yes here. And then there is a column on the census template called job classification, and please list which one of these 3 items they are. So if that employee was seasonal, under the job classification column, type seasonal. Same with temporary or part-time. We need that information to be able to correctly test your plan for those exclusions, okay? Number 10 is asking if your company maintains any of the following. Basically a cafeteria plan, Section 125, employer-sponsored health savings accounts. Basically, does the company allow for any employee to do pre-tax contributions to help pay for health insurance premiums or HSA funds or FSA funds? And so If your company allows for pre-tax contributions, employee pre-tax contributions to be put into one of those programs, please answer yes here, and then provide that data on the column of the census template that asks for that information. We do need that information. And then lastly, we've gone down from, I think we had like 22 questions to 11. I mean, it's gone down quite a bit. Does your company plan to extend the company tax return for the year? So for 2022, is the company going to extend that company tax return for 2022? If you already know this, answer yes or no, depending on what you already know. And if you're not sure, then please just answer no. Okay. We're done with step 7. So now we're going to go to step 8. Again, we tried to shorten this. So some of the items you'll recognize if you did this last year. So question 1 is asking if you had late deposits. So basically the government says that you have so many days to deposit employees' contributions into the retirement plan, into their account at the retirement plan. And if you exceed those days, it's considered late. And we would need to report those payrolls, those late deposits, on the Form 5500. So that's why we ask this information, because it is required for us to report them as late on the 5500. So if you know for a fact that it took you more than the allotted days, then please answer yes and leave a note which pay periods those were, or send an email to your account manager. So in general, if you have a small plan, meaning your plan does not require an audit, then you have 7 business days. If your plan does require an audit, there is not an exact day, but in general, 3 business days is what most auditors will look at, but that is not a guarantee, but in general, 3 business days. Fidelity bond. So we're asking for the amount of the bond, the bond coverage for the year, or if it's auto escalated, which the bond would state that it escalates each year to make sure it has at least the minimum coverage, then please write auto escalate, or if it's a specific amount of coverage, then provide that. We also have on question 3, the link to purchase Fidelity bond coverage if you don't want to go through your insurance agent, or if you aren't sure who can provide coverage. There is a link to a company that can provide coverage where you can go ahead and purchase that bond right then and there. And then question 4, who's going to sign the Form 5500? Usually it is one of the owners of the company or the primary contact of the plan will sign that Form 5500 for the year. Okay, so please just put who's going to sign that form so that we know. If you have a defined benefit plan, there might be a few additional questions you might have to answer. All right, number 9, the big one, the last one, the big kahuna, the employee census. So this language will be updated. So there's this little paragraph that we've put up there, okay? And it tells you how to export our census template file. So what you would do is you would click on export. It gives you 2 different types of Excel depending on what Microsoft Office version you're using. And then you would click on that. And what it does is it downloads the census template file onto your computer, okay? So you can fill it out. Then when you're ready, when you're done, when you filled it out, come back in here, click import, and it'll import the data, and then you'll see it all here under display, okay? If this is not the first year you are with Nova, you will see some information from last year's employees listed, okay? We still want you to export, but it'll already have some data from last year included on there. But we still want you to export that and update it as needed with all of the new information, any new employees, any dates of termination, dates of rehire. We still need you to update it, okay? Oh, and so this part is, once this recording is posted to our YouTube site, we will update that so that it shows up on this little blurb. So if you go back in and you need to look at the YouTube site and you aren't quite sure which webinar it is, it will be listed here with a link so that you can click on that and go and look at it, okay? So manual entry, you can do that by clicking add over here and do one participant at a time. It is very time consuming, so we really ask you, don't do it if you have more than like 5 participants because it's very time consuming, all right? Once you click add, this pop-up box will show up and then you can fill out all the items. There is a scroll bar. Do not ignore the scroll bar. There are other items that we will need down here for you to complete, okay? So please do that. Once you're done, hit save and then go back and hit add to add another participant, all right? Importing, exporting, I just went over that, but this is for you to refer back to later. Once you have saved that census template file onto your computer, be aware there are 2 worksheets here. The employees section, that's what you complete with the employee census data. The instructions tab tells you, it gives you more information on what we're asking for each of the columns, okay? So please look at that. Please read that. If you still have questions, refer back to this webinar, your notes, or go to your account manager, okay? Do not delete either tab. Do not rename either tab. Do not move around the tabs. In order to be able to import this file back directly into Plan Sponsor Link, the format of the file has to remain the same. The only thing that you can change is the actual entry data on the employees worksheet, okay? But don't change the columns or the column headers, the column names, just add in the employee information under the designated column. Again, the employees to include are all employees that received any W-2 wage in the year requested, all owners who are receiving Partnership K-1 or Schedule C income. We still need their social, their name, date of birth, date of hire, how much they contributed during the year if they did, and stuff like that. And then we do need copies of those Partnership K-1s and Schedule Cs as soon as possible. Draft copies before the CPA finishes them would be perfect. And again, even employees who terminated during the year, we still need them included on the census file. If you have an active employee, so let's say I'm working at Nova, I'm still listed as an active employee, but I'm really like a backup employee, so I only come in when they need me. And so in 2022, they didn't need me. I didn't get paid by them. I didn't work any hours for them, but I don't have a termination date in their system. That's fine, but please put a note for your account manager, like such and such is still actively employed in our system, but they had no compensation or hours because they were on medical leave. They were on military leave. We didn't need them this year, that kind of thing. Please add that note for your account manager. Otherwise, you're going to get a call and they're going to ask you why that's blank. So there are address columns, emails, and phone numbers for your employees. They are available for input. They are not required columns, but we do ask you to provide that information if it's easy enough for you from your payroll reports, because that will help our distributions and loans team. When they get a request, they can see that is the address, email, phone number of the employee different than what was on the form. It's just another check and balance to see if maybe there's fraud going on, okay? So here's that column that I mentioned earlier for the separation is due to death, disability, or requirement. It'll either be a check mark, a checkbox, or a Y for that, the column, if you want us to calculate a profit sharing or a discretionary match for you in the year. For rehired employees, we always need the very first original hire date of that employee, the most recent date of separation, and date of rehire in the year being tested. So for 2022 plan year, if they had a termination date in 2022 and or a rehire date in 2022, we need those. If their separation was in 2020, we need that one. And then they were rehired in 2022, we need that one. So we need the most recent one of each. We must have all 3 dates for a rehired employee. Otherwise, vesting will not work out correctly. Eligibility might not work out correctly. We definitely need that information. So please make sure you provide that. If the date of separation is prior to 2022, but they had a rehire, Plan Sponsor Link might send you a little error, a warning saying date of separation is before the current year. That's fine. Keep it in there. That is the correct date. Leave it in there. It'll still accept the census information. It'll just give you that little warning to say, hey, double check your information. Is this what you meant? Okay. It is okay to leave that date of separation in there because it's from the prior year, but then they were rehired. So please don't delete it just because you see that warning error. We've tried to get the system to not produce that warning if there's a rehire date. We haven't succeeded in that yet, but we're still rooting for it. Compensation, excluded compensation. So if your plan, let's see, do I have another one? That's owners. Okay, let me go back a little bit. Talk about this compensation real quick. I thought I had another slide on this, but I don't. So where is it? So sorry, but I think this will be really useful to you. Oh my goodness. Did I pass it? I must have passed it. Maybe not. Here we go. All right. So we have these three types of compensations that we're asking for on the census file. The first two are required. The third is not, but we still ask for it. So if you have that information, please provide it. Gross compensation, that is W-2 Box 5 wages plus W-2 Box 5 wages plus any pre-tax health 125 HSA cafeteria plan contributions. Okay, so that is what gross is. W-2 Box 1 is what that is. Plan compensation, that is if you're taking gross wages minus any excluded compensations that are listed in the document as such. So you're only calculating contributions on that compensation. So it's gross compensation minus excluded compensations. That is where that plan compensation comes in. So let's go talk about excluded compensations. Okay. The adoption agreement, the plan document for every retirement plan will state which compensation, if any, is excluded in the calculations of the contributions for the employees. Okay. And if you don't know which ones are excluded, in your adoption agreement that is listed in Plan Sponsor Link for your plan, number 23 will list these exclusions. And here I even give you how to find this adoption agreement. Okay. So if you go in and you look at the plan document, number 23, and it lists any of these types of exclusions, then they are excluded from the calculation of the contributions for the employees. And we need those excluded, those total compensations listed separately out into these columns. Okay, so what you would do is you would take that gross compensation minus your excluded compensation, and that would be your plan compensation, right? So not all of these will be excluded from your document, okay? These first five, not all of them will be excluded. We only need the ones that are actually excluded from your document that you do not include when you are calculating the contributions for the employees. So the payroll system would be updated to remove certain types of compensation. That would be the excluded comp, and we would need it listed here, okay? Severance compensation. Severance compensation is true severance, okay? It is not just their final paycheck that they were paid after their termination date. It is the money that they're getting paid because you have an agreement, but it's not actually compensation based upon work they've actually done for the company. So true severance is always excluded from every kind of contribution because it is a non-allowable compensation for retirement plans. No retirement plan can include that in calculating contributions. So if you had any true severance comp, please list it here. It should be included in the gross compensation, should be excluded from the plan compensation column. Okay. So new to the census template this year is ownership and relationship. So we asked for this earlier in the earlier steps, but we're also asking for it on the census file to help. And there is a 5-minute long detailed explanation of how to fill out this slide, these columns on the census file, okay? And so, and then the instructions worksheet also gives you exact instructions of how to complete these columns, all right? So please make sure you do look at that instructions worksheet of the census template to help fill these out. And then also watch that very short video on just these columns on how to fill out the relationship columns and what we're looking for. And here's a link to it, okay? Again, for sole proprietorships and partnerships, we need their Schedule C and K1 in order to complete the testing. We cannot complete the testing without this information. Until we get this information, NOVA will continue to send out reminder emails. If you give us the census data on every other employee, everything else is done. Literally all we're waiting on is Schedule C or K1. We will know that and we will send requests out periodically for that information as a little reminder, hey, we still need these files once they're ready, okay? Once they are ready and you're ready to send them to your NOVA account manager, please do it through that secure file exchange of Plan Sponsor Link web portal, okay? So once you've completed that census file template with all of your employee information on there, save the file, log back into the website, go back into the year-end data collection project to the employee census step 9, click on import to upload your census file. Browse to your completed file from your computer and then it'll tell you if it was successful or not. Warnings are fine. Warnings will still accept the data you provided and you can still save this step to complete the process. Errors are not accepted. And so it will let you know if there are errors and things need to be changed on the file before it can be fully imported in, okay? If you're having problems, you can't figure out what's causing the errors on your file, it's just not taking it, it won't let you save it, that's fine. You can hit save and it'll pop up with this little question saying, are you sure you don't want to enter census data in this step? You click on skip this step, okay? That way you can complete step 9. And then what you would want to do is send that census data directly to your account manager through the secure file exchange, okay? So I've been talking about this and this is what it actually looks like. Once you're logged in to your Plan Sponsor Link web portal, the My Active Tasks is where you've been working from for the data collection project. Secure File Exchange tab, this is where you would want to go. Click on New Exchange. Find your file, find your NOVA account manager name. There's a drop down with all of our names. If you're doing this to submit distribution or loan requests, there is a NOVA distributions and you would choose that and it'll go directly to that team so they can start on the process. We do request that you do that because there are times when your account manager is on vacation. We're at conferences, we're not available, we're sick. If you send it to NOVA distributions, a distribution or loan request, it'll get processed as soon as possible. If you send those directly to your account manager, it might be delayed because they might be out of the office. So, but your census data, that's what we're talking about now. If you can't get the census data to import, or you already have census data in an Excel file that has all the information we need, you were able to get it from your payroll provider, you can send it to your NOVA account manager. For message, just put something like 2022 census file, select the plan, and then hit send, okay? Again, an email will send directly to your account manager and they can go in and download that file. Once all 9 steps are green with the green check mark, meaning you completed them all, and you're ready, hit sign and submit, complete this, hit submit, and you are done. Okay. Just another side note, this doesn't necessarily hold up your compliance testing, but it does hold up your Form 5500, so we're going to mention it. If your plan has assets outside at outside brokerage firms like a Charles Schwab, a Merrill Lynch, where Nova cannot access the employee's data, we do need to be set up to receive duplicate statements, whether they're monthly or quarterly, whatever. We need Nova to be set up with that. So please make sure that we are receiving duplicate statements. If we are not, please provide us all the statements for all the participants for the whole plan year to Nova, to your account manager through that secure file exchange, okay? Because we cannot complete that Form 5500 without that data. So once you're done, you will no longer see the year-end data collection under My Active Task tab. Instead, it will be under the Data Collection tab, and you can go in and click Report and save that information into your computer so that you can see what you completed, for each year. So once you click Report, you can save that file into your computer, and you will see every step has their own worksheet. So every step will be its own worksheet with the information that you completed. All right. If you had your plan with Nova prior to 2022 and you want to see what was completed last year on the census, on the employee census step, or what was answered on any of the other steps, you can download last year's and help you and have that open to help you finish this year's. So that's a really good way to look and see what was done last year to kind of help you with this year's. If you need census help, Nova has a sister company called AFS 316, and they might be able to help you. They might be able to access your information from your payroll provider, get the data to upload the census data for us, and they charge a fee of $300. There is a time limit on when they will do this, so sign up as soon as possible. And to be able to do the census submission service, your payroll provider has to be one of those online providers like Paylocity or ADP or something. You have to give read-only access to AFS. Again, AFS will not be able to change any information in that system. They will only be able to read the information and get the reports needed so that they can fill out the census template for Nova. If you're interested in this, please contact Jay Kolzniak at AFS 316, and he can get you started up with the communication about adding this service. Frequently asked questions, I'm not going to go through that because I already have, but you have the handout so you can look at it again later. Let's go ahead and move on to the Q&A section because I'm sure there's lots of questions, Yvette.
All right. Yeah, we have quite a few coming in. Okay. First question, are we only reporting on active employees or both termed and active?
Both termed and active. Every employee.
All righty. If we have more than one payroll processing schedule, do we use the most frequent, for example, semi-monthly versus monthly?
Yes, please use the most frequent, but also make a note for your account manager because then they can let our distribution and loan team know, and they'll add a note to their where they go to look when they are processing loan requests. So please use the most frequent one, but also leave a note for your account manager on the other payroll frequency and who's involved in that one.
Okay. Only need to know other businesses owned by family if they are employees, correct?
No. No, we only need to know about family relationships if they're employees, but other businesses, even if they are not an employee, but they are in the relation of an owner of the company that sponsors the retirement plan, we need to know.
Okay. If a sibling of the owner works for the company, do they need to be listed?
We prefer it because if they have the same last name. So basically, if anyone has the same last name as an owner and they are related, please list them and what type of relationship they are, because that way it'll help us from thinking that maybe you didn't provide all the information and maybe they are like a spouse or a child or parent or something. That way we know they're a sibling or something else, where they won't be getting ownership through attribution is what it's called.
Okay. As owners, we are not eligible to contribute funds to the manager-only plan. Do we still need to be included in the census file?
You're not eligible to contribute funds to the manager-only plan. No. If your plan is designated to fully exclude owners, you do not need to add them. But any other kinds of exclusions, you would still need to add them and list under job classification, what their classification is to be excluded.
All right. Is there a place where we can see how the questionnaire was answered last year?
Yes, I showed you that on one of the prior screens just now. So please refer back to the handout and you can follow those steps to go and see what that was.
Okay. What if we have owners who receive K-1s but do not participate in the 401k program? Do we need to provide their information?
Yeah, provide them on the census data and then just make a note that they are not participating, because then we will know that we can proceed with the compliance testing and not wait for that K-1 information. Usually. There's always exceptions.
Okay, next one. We started our plan August 1st, 2022. Is that the date we use to determine our employees to be included, or should we include employees since January 1st of 2022?
Most likely January 1st of 2022. If you were to go in and look at the adoption agreement, so one of my slides had where you could locate the adoption agreement on Plan Sponsor Link. If you go look at that, the plan's effective date is most likely the first day of the plan year, even though the contributions didn't start until August. And so we would need employees from January 1st. But if you still aren't quite sure, double check with your NOVA account manager, but also checking that adoption agreement on the plan's effective date. It's usually the first 2 or 3 pages. That would be the date that you use for the employees. So all employees since that date.
Okay. Should I delete the census, the employees that, should I delete from the census the employees that were terminated in 2021?
Yes, if they terminated in 2021, they had absolutely no compensation or hours for 2022, and they have not been rehired in 2022, then they can be deleted, yes.
Okay. I think this one was already covered. Do we have to report a sibling employee of owner as family?
Okay, yep, we answered that one.
Yeah. All righty. Next one. If we have employees who become 1099 NEC and vice versa, we only report the W-2 portions, correct?
Yes, that is definitely correct. If you have an employee that goes between 1099 or W-2 and then W-2 throughout the year, whether it's to or from, we only need the W-2 portion.
Alrighty. Does late deposit include corrections from prior year adjustments made in the current year?
No. Late deposits is only for payrolls for the current year being tested. So for 2022, it would only refer to payrolls for 2022.
Okay. For owners, if you are an owner in another S Corp or a minor owner in a real estate trust, does that need to be included?
only if the document has those other companies included as participating employers. So you would want to check with your NOVA account manager.
All right. Do we add both of us spouses who own the company 50/50 to the family relationships section?
So what you would do is you would put both of you in the ownership, and then under family, you could put one of you with spouse to the other. You don't have to do both of you with spouse to the other. You can only just do the one so that we know that you're each other's spouses.
Okay. Would a father-in-law need to be listed as an owner's family?
Only if they have the same last name. Because they do not get ownership through attribution since they are a father-in-law. And so the family section is so that if someone has the same last name as an owner, we know what type of relationship they are so that whether they get attribution of ownership or not. So if they have a different last name, then we don't need them listed. But if it's the same last name as one of the owners, we would like you to list it. Yep.
Right. That answers the same thing. Let's see.
Thank you to all of you who are still holding on to wait for the questions. I know we've gone over a little bit, but we just want to be as thorough as possible to help you all out.
Alrighty. If an owner starts an LLC just to rent out a property and that LLC doesn't have any employees, does that need to be listed on the census?
Not on the census, but on the business section. We need to know that LLC and the other businesses section. Yeah.
Okay.
But the LLC should not be listed on the census.
All right. NAIC, they're trying to locate which type of insurance is this a part of?
NAIC is not part of any insurance. It is the company business code that is reported on the company tax form. So if you're not sure, talk to whoever does the taxes for the company.
Okay, let's see. To the add all employees, is that even with no contribution?
Yes. All employees, whether they are actively contributing or not, whether they're eligible to contribute or not, every single employee of the company who gets W-2 wages or is the owner.
Okay, do H-2B seasonal employees need to be reported?
If they get W-2 compensation, yes.
Okay. If we have a multiple EINs and one of them closed/sold during the year, would we mark them in the business section, but mark that they don't have any employees?
So if you had a business and it sold during the year, you wouldn't necessarily, if it was not already in the business section, then you should definitely add it in there and then put them with no employees and then make a note that that business was sold and, you know, and when, like rough estimate of when.
Alrighty, perfect. And that was actually our last question.
Yay! Okay, we didn't go over too much.
Alrighty, perfect. Well, thank you, Lisa, for your time, and thanks everybody for joining. If you do have any other questions, you can go ahead and email us at webinars@NOAA401k, or you can reach out to your your record keeper? Would it be, Lisa?
No, your NOVA account manager.
Them. Okay,
Or
there
you
you
can
go.
also do census@nova401k.com. That also comes directly to me and one other employee here at NOVA. And we can answer it if it's a general question. If it's plan specific, we will definitely forward it directly to your NOVA account manager, and then they will contact you with that answer.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye.